Find your meaning, share your story, change the world. Have you ever thought about reinventing yourself to do something else? Something else that actually feeds your soul and gives you joy and leads you to prosperity? Well, I know someone who's done just that. Let's meet her. This is Prosperity and Something Greater. My guest today is Nancy Erickson, the book professor. She is my publisher, my editor, my book coach, and my friend. Nancy's the owner and founder of 3 book-related businesses. The Book Professor, you can find at thebookprofessor.com, Stonebrook Publishing, and bookkarma.net. Nancy left a high-tech job and moved back to St. Louis for her family, which she will tell us about. And then she reinvented her life and her business and found her path to prosperity and something greater. Hello, everyone. And I am just thrilled today because my editor and my book coach, the woman that I met, I'll tell everybody real quickly, Nancy, how we met. We were at a conference for a marketing platform database named Entrepreneur that we both use. And we were at a dinner and we were seated at the same table and you were sitting beside my wife, Diane. And at some point during this meal, Diane looks at me. She's talking to you, and I'm talking to the person on the other side of me. And she says, Rem, you need to talk to Nancy. And you know, when Diane says I need to do anything, I say, certainly. And so, and then she says, because she helps people that think they have a book in them actually get that book out. And you need to talk to Nancy. So I talked to Nancy and thought about it. And Nancy has a process by which she guides people. And I want her to tell you about this herself, but I am a believer because she's able to take people who are really busy and don't have time to write a book, who have always wanted to do it because they really want to make their dent in the universe. They want to do something great. And she has a system that allows you to pull it off. And I realized when it was all done that the reason I never wrote my book, because I don't know how to write a book. And so someone like Nancy was brilliant enough to say, there is a need here. And ever since then, I mean, I've told so many people about it. She's helped them write their books. And so my book coach, my mentor, the person that taught me that I use LY way, way, way too much is Nancy Erickson, the book professor. And Nancy, it's just an absolute delight to be on this with you. And even more so because I know you so well now, and you know you and I've had many conversations that go far beyond your book process and what we did together. And if I was going to speak to anybody about how do you define prosperity, you were at the top of my list. And I've got a lot of people at the top of my list, but you're way up there because I really feel like you found your version of that. So Nancy, welcome.
Thank you, Rem, so much. And the greatest thing for me that came out of it is that we have a really good friendship, and I always appreciate that.
That's such a wonderful little byproduct of helping your clients, isn't it?
It is.
And you learn about them and you grow with them, and they give back as much sometimes as we give them, and they often don't know it. So I try to tell you. So Nancy, let's just jump right into it. I want to ask you, how do you define prosperity for you?
You know, that was a really interesting question because I don't think I'd ever thought about that before, Rem. And I guess we do all have our different definitions of prosperity. But for me, I think it is the ability to create meaning in my life and in the lives of others. And so when I can create meaning for myself, like use my gifts and talents to be meaningful, that really fulfills me. It really makes me feel, prosperous. And when I can use those gifts to help others make meaning in their lives, that's just golden. It's just something that it just feels so good. I can hardly stand it.
I love that. And as I've been looking into this, I mean, the title of my original book was Podiatry Prosperity because I work with podiatrists. And through one of the folks that was together, Mike, he actually, that we were writing books together with you, he proposed that title. And I just thought, well, it's alliterative, sounds really good. It does get to the heart of it. But as I started to really think about prosperity, I found that it is an elusive topic.
Mm-hmm. And it changes. I think our definition might change over time.
Well, it absolutely. I know that that's the case. It's interesting. I'll tell you, you're the very first person that I've asked this question that hasn't mentioned the component of prosperity that involves money. Most people, kind of start there and say, well, I guess it's about, money. And when you go and I dug into this, if you listen to the first episode, wealth is part of it. Wealth in a lot of ways. I know your life journey, and I know what you value, and the money follows, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But maybe it's because I've taken some wrong turns in my life and done some things that aren't meaningful and fulfilling. And when I compare that to prosperity, to me means filling yourself up so that you can give out. Yeah, I want the money. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I definitely want the money that comes with it, but it isn't the focus. The focus is on being really fulfilled in who I am and using those gifts to make meaning in the lives of others.
And I must say, with everyone else, they have the exact same attitude about it. It's just you're the only one that actually hadn't even spoken the words. But most of them, said, however, what's much more important? And they were there too. So everybody's solid in that regard so far, at least. And that's the prosperous people. I mean, I haven't interviewed someone that I think money is the only focus. I don't think I would, because I wouldn't want to.
Well, I don't think you surround yourself with those types of people.
Yeah, I don't last long at all. If you're that kind of person, we don't spend very much time at all, and they don't really enjoy talking to me.
Right.
So let me ask you though, at the time that we're recording this, Nancy and I talked about this just before we went online, which is the case really with everyone so far. We're in the middle of the this is what is today? Is it April 1st or is it March 30th?
March 30th. Yeah. I think there's one more day in March and then we get April. Yeah.
Right. March, yeah, and bring on April.
I mean, who knows what day it is? Every day is like the same because we're sequestered at home, right?
Yeah, I had this thing last week, and I just felt like it was Friday, and I thought it really feels like Tuesday. And then a lawyer that I know and really like, and we'll interview on this, Brian Beckham had said, why does today feel like Tuesday? And I thought, wow, that's exactly what question I just asked somebody, my daughter. Why does today feel like Tuesday? But we're in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, and it hasn't come into clarity yet. And so we're all home. And Nancy, has your definition of prosperity changed since the stay-at-home order, happened?
Well, a little bit, yeah, because you know what? I get this really full, prosperous, satisfied feeling when I open my refrigerator and it's full, and that the people that are closest to me that I love are under my roof. That makes me feel prosperous. That to me is prosperity. We need food and we need our loved ones near us at this time. And so, yeah, it's really funny. It's like, I get this, I feel like we all go to the grocery store and we're still doing that, but nothing else. But when I come back with a big haul from the grocery store and I've scored toilet paper or something like that, I feel like I've, really hit the jackpot. So, we're all settling down a little bit, and we don't know how long we'll be asked to isolate like we have been. But it's really important for us. I've got kids who are doctors, and so they're scrambling and just begging people to stay home. And that's not the normal course of action. Now, I actually run my businesses from my home. I have an office too, but I spend a lot of time running my businesses from my home. But this feels different. It really does feel different. And we're safe at home. And I just love that knowledge that we're going to be well taken care of sheltered in place.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, it's, me, and you know that one of the joys in my life is opening up the curtains every morning and seeing the sun just stream into my bedroom. I live in Las Vegas, and so it's pretty reliable. And and I take great joy in little things. I like to walk through my backyard and see what the latest cactus or this plant is doing, or what's going on, and these little geckos that you'll see from time to time. And so I've always been very focused on that. But it's interesting, just the idea that yes, there are eggs, and yes, there is food. There's never been a time in my life where it never occurred, and as an American, that you wouldn't go to the grocery store and it wouldn't be stocked.
Right. Yeah. And that's eerie, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yes, it's what it's given me is an appreciation for the simple things, and how important our farmers are, and our truck drivers,
Hmm.
all those people. It's just really, really, I'm grateful.
I like that feeling of appreciation for those grocery workers and the truckers and those and things that people we don't really think about those people at other times, you know? And
We never would even have looked at them and thought
right,
anything. They're just always there.
right, right. And so shame on us, right, for not valuing everybody. But I told you that I took a quick 2,300-mile drive down to Southern Florida to get my mom last week because I wanted her under my roof. And I was so impressed. There was a lot of traffic and it was trucks. It was trucks. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at all these trucks. They're the only ones that are keeping us alive. I mean, our whole economy is shut down, and if we didn't have those truckers hauling goods to us, we would be really in bad shape. So it's an unprecedented time in the United States. And actually, I mean, the whole world's shut down. It's very eerie, but we're going to be okay. We'll be fine. This is temporary. And I think that we can use this time to just simplify. I mean, I have to tell you, I've discovered some things that I don't need anymore. Like I don't need to get my nails done, right? We're supposed to keep our nails short to keep our hands clean, so I cut them all off, and just other things that just it feels good to simplify and to really have time to look in somebody's eyes and connect and speak with them. And our lives are so rich and full if we would just slow down and appreciate, as you said, Rim.
And I think we've had so much abundance that we just forget. And I think maybe I have a hope that our discourse, even politically, maybe
Hopefully.
might improve, and certainly the regard with which we hold each other. I think it could be a return to some very, very good values, and I hope that's where we go. So great. Now, what was the defining moment, Nancy, or event? Because you have a very, very interesting story, and how you're such an entrepreneur in what you've done. So, can you tell everybody? I mean, what brought you to your career path?
Right. So what I'm doing now is what you said. I help people who aren't writers to become authors of these high impact nonfiction books that will either save lives, change lives, or transform society. But I got here in a very roundabout way. So my original career, I was a systems engineer for IBM, and then I worked for Oracle Corporation, two of the largest high tech corporations, and that's where most of my career lied. But about 10 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. And so I quit everything. We knew he'd have about 7 months to live, which was just right on target. And so I quit everything and I went back and forth to Florida with my sister, and I kind of tag teamed and went down there to be with my folks until he passed away. And then I stayed with my mom a little bit shortly thereafter. But then I came home and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? I quit my job, And so had kids pretty young, so my kids were actually out of college then when I was 45 years old. And so I thought, I don't really have to make those big dollars anymore because everybody's out of college. And so what do I really want to do? And I'd always written stuff when I was young, and I'd had some things published, and I thought, I think I'm going to go back to school and hone those skills. So that's what I did. I went back to school to get a master's degree, Master's of Fine Arts in Writing. And then I joined the faculty where I graduated from and to teach writing. And so as I was doing that, at the same time, I started my publishing company, Stonebrook Publishing. And so it was really fun. I mean, who thinks, oh, I'll just start a publishing company? It's like ignorance is bliss, but I figured it out. The first book we published was written by a Holocaust survivor who'd gone to school with Anne Frank. And we ended up doing that book release in Amsterdam at their school, which was really cool. And then the next book we published was we ended up getting back cover endorsements for the second book. It's called A Life in Parts. We ended up getting back cover endorsements from Sir Paul McCartney and Cindy Crawford, the supermodel. And I'm like, I think I'm doing this, And so I was all, kind of confident and a little cocky about it. And then all of a sudden I had what I can only call is a spiritual experience, where whatever you call God or the universe or your inner being or whatever you want to call that, I had a very clear experience where I just felt this or heard this or something that I needed to stop doing the publishing for a while, because I'd been getting tons of manuscripts from people who they had that seed, that perfect nugget of a message that would either save lives or change lives or transform society. But they were so bad at writing that we couldn't do anything with it, So you're laughing. You're not in that category, Rim.
I thought I was. I remember when I sent my manuscript to you, I thought, she's really going to yell at me. And then you this is great. No. And I thought, oh, maybe there's hope. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I just had this feeling I had to stop, and that what my role is to help thousands and thousands of people get that message out of themselves and out into the world where it can do its work. Because, we got a lot of problems in our world, and I actually think we can solve them all, and that the answers are trapped inside people like you, and that when you simply tell what you know and what you've learned and what you've overcome and what you've, developed or learned, then you become the source of two things that people can't live without. And those two things are hope and help. And so that's what we concentrate on. So I just, stepped back and wrote a kind of a step-by-step process on how to get that message out of your head and out on paper so it can be, so it can fly.
Well, when something's right and it's supposed to be, it is. And I can just say that I remember, I'm an alpha dog. I'm a leader, pretty much. I remember one time I was on jury duty and I decided I wasn't going to be the foreman, just so I didn't have to lead another group. I thought, I'll just not be the leader this time. Somebody said to me, you're nuts if you're not the foreman. You could spend your whole life there. So I thought, well, maybe that's true. So I became the foreman of that too. So always. And so I remember very clearly when I joined the mastermind group that we worked together, the cohorted group of authors, I thought, I am going to behave myself. I am going to be a good participant, and I am not going to take over. Now, what's funny is that there's no way, absolutely, you didn't need any help from me to behave, because you know how to do this. You got your system down, and you're good at running it. I will say, no one's going to push Nancy around, and I just found it to be so valuable. But for me, it was just a chance to see what the process is really like. You shared a few things, just tips and quotes from other authors that liberated my brain into saying, I just have to get this out. It doesn't have to be any good to start. And it was better than I thought. And then of course, I made it way, way better with your help. And then you do what editors do, which now I know why everybody's books are so good. You take what we've done, and you clean it up to where I read it and I thought those are all my words, yet they're better. It just was so well done. So, well, Nancy, let me jump over. We have we all have challenges and obstacles that we face, and we all have this thing that can trip us up on our daily journey. So what's the thing you have to be careful about or guard against? What can trip you up as you're moving forward, trying to be prosperous and think in this way?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, and I think I've kind of distilled it down into one thing, Rem, and I think the only thing that can trip me up is my mindset and my attitude. And when I remember that, I also remember that I can control that. And so, just going back to our isolation time that we're having right now, it's been a couple weeks for us, and it's getting a little lonely. And I woke up this morning and I was thinking, I just didn't feel good. I just wanted to be sad. I just wanted to be depressed. And then I was happy because I remembered I'd be talking to you. And then I was thinking maybe Rim will make me feel better. But then, you know what? We can control our mindset about anything. And this is something that I have greatly expanded on in having a friendship with you, Rim, because you are probably the most positive person that I know. And there's really nothing wrong right now. Nothing is going wrong right now. We're just staying inside and sheltering in. And so many times especially when starting a business, there's a lot of scariness to it. You definitely don't feel prosperous at first. And so if I can just keep my mindset as positive and happy and pay attention to how I feel at all times. And when I start not feeling good, to just think about things that make me do feel good and kind of flip that script and be able to influence my own mood and emotions. That's really been key for me.
And me too. And in fact, I don't know any other way other than that internal dialogue and how important it is. And I have personalized my subconscious mind because I listened to Napoleon Hill, who did that as well. And we talked this morning. Woke up. If you're listening to this podcast on a regular basis, the first thing I did was smile. That smile reminds me I'm so lucky and blessed. And then Sub and I had a quick talk, and I just said, what's the goal today, Sub? And I'm not saying I hear this, but I hear this. You know what I mean? And he said, we're going to have the best day we can possibly have today. That's what I'm doing today. And again, I look at my schedule today, and I see this bright spot, which is talking to you. And I see some other things that'll be, I'm going to have to work through. But I know that then at the end of the day, I'll be, I'm joined all day by my beautiful little Chihuahua. And what a gift that is. And I know how much you love your dogs. And then I get to be with my wife, and now sheltering in place with my daughter and her husband. So it's a good day. Every day is a good day.
If you make it that way, it's up to you. It either is or it isn't, but it's up to you.
Happiness is a choice. Patience is a choice. Anger is a choice. Love is a choice. That's a big part of my philosophy, and it's how I end my book. So, Nancy, the people listening to this podcast are also, I know, interested in achieving their own version of prosperity. And, that story that you just told about how you created something out of nothing but your interests and your skills and your wish to make the world a little better, you created what you did, and you've helped so many. What advice do you have for people that are thinking, I'd like to create my own version of prosperity?
Well, I think I would tell them to meditate, to begin your day by meditating and really clearing your mind. And there's a lot of good guided meditations you can do on YouTube and stuff. But I think that that's the single most important thing that I could suggest, because that's what's been important to me, is to clear your mind every morning so that inspiration can have room to grow. And so I think that's really important. And the other thing I would say, and I think this is a kind of a flip side of Can you mention what your definition of prosperity is again? And I want to key off of that, Rem.
Well, I mean, it's, flourishing and thriving, just being at peace with yourself every single day, while you're helping others and enriching them and you.
Right. And so you have to pay attention to how you're feeling, And so a long time ago, I decided that I don't want to do anything I don't want to do anymore. And I don't. And so what does that mean? That means that the things that that stress me out and that I'm not skilled at doing, I get others to do. I have employees, I've got, I've got a CPA that does my books every month. I've got, people who do my marketing because I don't really like that. And just other things. But if it feels good, don't do it, because you're crowding out your creativity by trying to do everything. And so I had to learn that it was worth more for me to delegate than it was to do things. Because I tell you what, I'm very technical. I told you I was a systems engineer with IBM. I can program the heck out of a website, but is that what I should be doing? No. So I don't do those things anymore, so I can concentrate on the parts that I really love doing and that I think for which I am gifted. The other thing I've had to do is kind of a strategy is to really live by my calendar. I can be, I'm a creative type, so I can be subject to that shiny object syndrome where like, oh, look, and I have lots of ideas about stuff, but I plan my workout on my work calendar and time block, and I stick with those because we have many, many multiple projects in the works at one time. And there's a lot to publishing books and doing design work and all that kind of stuff, which we do through our publishing company. But I am disciplined to live by my calendar. And so, start your day with meditation. This is what I do, just my suggestion. Give your mind some clear spots so that your creativity can evolve. And then, just be sure that you're focused and you get things accomplished that need to be done.
I was so impressed whenever I went through your program that very early on you addressed the concept of time blocking. And time blocking is the single strategy or tactic that is the most correlated with success. And I forget who said that, but it is true. And if you read any of the books that I just love and have spent all this time with, they all talk about time blocking and how important it is. And what's interesting? So, and Nancy will tell you, you're going to have to block out a significant amount of time, not in the beginning, but at a certain stage in the writing, you need to find your 8 hours and you need to work on this block that otherwise you won't be able to accomplish what we're doing in that time. So like I said, good listener, busy person that I am. Now, by the way, I have always been a very good time blocker. And so, it was quite a long time ago. One day a week, I'm totally booked and it's with myself. But then I had to find more time because I couldn't take that time to write my book because that time was already sacred. So I crafted out this other block. And I pulled it off and I was able to accomplish all my tasks and the work you have to do, even with that block of time that I had for my writing. So Nancy, I still have a block in my calendar that is it's called writing. I mean, and I just won't get rid of it because it has been so I've doubled my strategic, really good time. I thought if I can why would I go back? So thank you for the extra day. It's been great.
Well, you did a good job with it and stuff. And so it's true. I mean, books don't write themselves. You do have to, put your fingers on the keyboard and dedicate some time to it. But it's like any big project. If you break it down into bite-sized chunks and are consistent with it, then you can get it done. It's just that, you just have to be careful of not slacking off on yourself, and that's why we do our coaching through group masterminds where we're on a call once a week with the other people in the cohort just to keep you going, keep you accountable, keep you motivated, et cetera, because it takes a year and there's a lot of there's a lot of jumping off points where you could just kind of lag off and not complete it.
Well, I'm a big believer in the mastermind. I believe without that concept, which is what I built my company top practices around. What we've done, how we help people would not have been able to come into fruition because I don't believe you can do this alone. I think you need the advice and support and ideas and intelligence and creativity of other like-minded people. And you brilliantly used that. So Nancy, I've been asking everybody this question, and it's a fun one. So if you were a toy, any toy at all, what would it be and why?
Okay. Well, do you remember? I want to be a super ball. Do you remember those super balls?
Sure.
You bounce them and they just go jillions of miles up into the sky, it seemed like when I was a kid. That was the most fun I ever had. And so I thought it'd be so fun because it's surprising. You give some people more than they want, and then you're it's just entertaining for hours. And I love balls. So I thought that would be a fun thing to be, just soaring through the air.
Oh, I like that. Of course, I had a lot of Super Bowls when I was a kid. My favorite one was just a black Super Bowl, and I had red and blue. I had all kinds of them, but I had this one regular size, just the Super Bowl. And if you've never played with one, I'd go online and get one because they're a blast. And it's so funny you'd say that because a Super Bowl is this amazing amount of potential, energy.
They're so fun.
All you have to do is use it, and amazing things happen. So, I love that, Nancy.
That's funny because, like, when my husband and I moved in our house about 5 years ago, and you have that lag time where you're waiting for the movers to get there with your stuff. For some reason, the previous owners had this jar of Super Balls, and we just stood on the top floor and just threw them off down into the lower floor and over the railing, and we're just having so much fun with Super Balls bouncing all over. So,
well, that's
that
great.
was fun.
And also, it's such a perfect choice for you because they're also just lots and lots of fun, just joy. And so, that's great. So now here's a great question. The last one I'm going to ask you today. And I want you have to limit it to one. But what's a great book, Madam Book Professor, that we should all be reading?
Okay, well, not to be gratuitous, but I highly recommend Podiatry Prosperity by Rem Jackson. And I'm going to tell you why, because I got to spend a lot of time in your book. And yeah, there's stuff, it's a book about how to, market your practice, etc. It is so much more than that. The layers and layers that you present, Rem. I especially like that chapter on, your inner 6-year-old. There's a lot of wisdom in this book, and there's a lot of care and a lot of you, Rem, in it, and your philosophies, and you're just, I don't know. I love your book. I think that even if you have another type of business, you can still use all the principles of marketing that you've instructed in your book. And so I love your book. I highly recommend it. There's so much about creating a peace of mind type of life in your book that I think would be valuable to any reader.
Well, that is high praise coming from you. And I thank you very, very much. I do love the book. I remember when I shared it, I was, having people read excerpts from it so that they could write a little praise for it, which appears in the beginning of the book. One of my my great doctors said, "Can I give you just one piece of negative advice?" And I said, "Sure." Critical. I said, "Sure." She goes, "I don't like the title." And I said, "Okay, how come?" And she said, "Well, you called it Podiatry Prosperity. This book has almost nothing to do with podiatry and everything to do with small businesses or other professionals and life and all the rest of it." And I said, "Well, thank you. That's okay. If that's the critique, then I'm just fine because I work in the world of podiatry. I don't want them to wonder if that book was for them. So I'm being very specific about that, but more to follow, right, Nancy? More to follow.
Exactly.
But that is, I am humbled. So thank you. Okay, Nancy, the book professor, my coach, my teacher, and now my dear, dear friend. Thank you for spending this time with us. I wish you a wonderful day and another one tomorrow. And I hope that so quickly you can hold your grandchildren again, like you do all the time, and we'll all be through this and on our way to an even better version of prosperity. So thanks so
Yeah.
much, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Rem.
Opportunity knocks on our door all the time. The question is, are we listening? When I met Nancy at the conference, I could have done a dozen things, including not following up the next day to hear about her business, not signing up because the time wasn't right. Is the time ever right for busy people? Not following through and committing to her process. And believe me, there was some faith in that decision because I don't have the time to mess around. And then not completing my book. But I didn't do that. I did the opposite. You know, I have a rule in life. Always take the meeting. You can always say no and decide not to do something. But if you think back to the most important decisions you've made in your life, the most important choices, it's because you paid attention and said yes, and then made it happen. Prosperity, flourishing and thriving, being willing to take the meeting and being willing to reinvent yourself. Let me know what you think. You can send me an email at rem@toppractices.com. And prosperity is the entire focus of what we do at Top Practices. Most of our doctors struggle, the ones that join us, not the ones that work with us. Most doctors are struggling with the business of medicine, and those that aren't truly understand that through association with other successful practitioners, they can take their business to the next level or to something greater, like prosperity. Prosperity in business is a function of mindset, marketing, and management. And that is our mission at Top Practices. You can find out more about Top Practices, our marketing and management programs for doctors, our workshops, our annual summit at toppractices.com. Until next time, this is Rem Jackson. Smile when you wake up, and then have a great day. Nothing is more important.